So for the apparel footwear sector, reaching net zero for our organization is really focusing on Scope 3 emissions and looking at where the largest percentage of carbon is being emitted across the supply chain of the production of apparel. And so we had collaborated on a report with World Resource Institute called the Roadmap to Net Zero, which really gave us not only the indication of where is the carbon being emitted and concentration within the supply chain, but also what are the percentages allocated to that. And so for us, how we're contributing to this is we're really focusing the brands on the processes that are the highest carbon emitting within the value chain or the supply chain for Scope 3 emissions. And for us, that's really looking at technologies related to thermal heat, renewable electricity, energy efficiency, and also on the materials side, ensuring that we're using lower carbon emitting materials. So this sector has collectively made a commitment to lower its carbon in half by 2030. And so on the journey towards total decarbonization, what needs to happen most effectively is to start to scale some of the existing solutions that are out there. And that's one of the things that AII is also focusing on, is what are the programs, processes, and solutions that are already tested, proven, have verified carbon emission data, and how do we get those to scale most rapidly? What's complex for the textile industry around measurement and accounting of carbon emissions is a couple of factors. First of all, we're talking about a shared supply chain. So there's no one brand retailer that's 100% attached to the volume being produced by a particular supplier. And so because of that, what we need to do is find a mechanism whereby each of the brand retailers that are producing or sourcing from that facility understands what its percentage of carbon emission reduction is related to the work that we're doing, right? So that creates a complexity because who gets credit, how much is it? Are we basing it on volume? Are we basing it on, other metrics that we may need to be looking at? So that's one of the key complexities. And I think also on top of that is also just ensuring the verification of the data. So a lot of the work that we're doing is on site. We're sending in technical experts who are measuring the processes that are reducing carbon. So like our energy efficiency programs, Clean by Design is our signature program that we're scaling. And there's going to be measurements at the beginning, midterm, and annually as we go on for this sort of compounded carbon emission reduction. But ensuring that that carbon is verified is also key, making sure that we're also then getting that data back to the brand retailer who may be looking to report on it is also dependent on the supplier wanting to release that information. And at this point, the industry also hasn't agreed upon what tools, measurements, or carbon accounting systems it wants to get behind. And so from AII's perspective, we want to support the general direction that the industry is taking. We're not setting that for the industry, but we also know that if there's multiple standards being used, it's going to be more complex. Collective action is key to this sector's success because, one of the points that I made earlier, the industry does not own their supply chain. This is not a vertically integrated supply chain. So being able to affect or influence, or maybe more importantly, incentivize a supplier to take on these improvements is going to require more than just one brand retailer. So collective action, working together is really the only way this industry is going to be able to address incentivizing these facilities to take on these improvements, because no one company, frankly, is big enough to do it alone, nor should they, nor is it their proper role. But as a collective industry, they're deeply impacting the supplier at the regional level and also as a aggregated approach. The other critical reason why we need collective action, and it's around the brand retailers coming together, it's also around the suppliers by region coming together, and it's also around the financial institutions that are part of this equation. So from a blended capital approach, from philanthropic catalytic dollars all the way through debt and equity, everyone is incentivized to come together, and it's not going to really drive the industry faster if we can't signal the market in one direction or a key suite of solutions that we are preferring to get to scale. And I think that's what's missing right now, is there's just too many directions that could be taken. So organizing this as a operational roadmap across improvements in the form of capital that's needed to get there is going to take collaboration at a much higher degree.